Hi, my name's Naina, and today I'm going to be talking about the Brainkey Gold Malt from Amrutam and mental health as per Ayurveda. So mental health in Ayurveda is extremely important. The definition of health according to Ayurveda is that the mind and the body and the senses and the soul are all in complete contentment. So you can see that if the mind is unbalanced, then it's going to affect our overall health and well-being. Now, traditionally, when we look at mental health, we often see it as something very separate from the body. But actually, what we don't realize is that the way that our mind functions and the way that our body functions are completely synchronistic. So whatever's happening in one is bound to affect the other. So that's why it's very important to look after our mental health and not treat it aside as if it doesn't matter or it can be treated by other methods. Ayurveda has a very ancient way of healing the mind through working with the body. Most mental imbalance, as per Ayurveda, is rooted in something called a Vata imbalance. So you probably hear me talking about this a lot. Vata is the dosha of movement. So this includes any type of movement within the body, but also the movement within our mind. When the Vata dosha is very high or when it's increased, we can notice that the movement can become more quick or it may become more agitated. So this oscillation of the mind of moving is what causes a lot of mental anguish. This duality that we're in of decision making, likes and dislikes, happiness and unhappiness, this up and down movement of the mind, oscillations we can call them, are the key roots of our suffering. When we're working with yogic practices or Ayurvedic practices, we're trying to restore the balance so that we're not so up and down and this movement is more steady. When this up and down movement can come into some sort of balance, we will find that our mind is much more focused and able to retain things more effectively. It also takes us on a journey of awareness to see what's really important in life and where we wish to place that awareness to carry us forward in our Dharma. So the Vata dosha is an interesting one. We can talk all day about it, but within the context of mental health, what I can explain is two things that will help you to understand. When the Vata dosha is increased, for example, if the air and the ether elements become too much within the system, we will notice symptoms within the body and the mind. If the Vata, the movement or the movement of air and space within the body becomes blocked, this can also show up as signs and symptoms in the body. So these signs and symptoms cross over and it's difficult to say whether the Vata dosha is blocked or whether it's increased. Either way, remedying it is generally the same thing. You can notice an increase in the Vata dosha by looking at your digestive system. So anything to do with the colon is generally associated with the Vata dosha. You might find that you have a lot of bloating and constipation when there is an increase of Vata. You might notice that the skin is very dry and that the joints can become quite stiff. On a mental level, you might start to feel more fearful, more anxious and lonely. If the Vata is more blocked, the anxiety is likely to be more increased. On a physical level, you will notice that there is pain within the body, especially within the joints and the muscles. On a psychological level, on a mental level, you will notice that you might feel a bit stuck, like things aren't flowing and moving as you had hoped. You might notice that you find it difficult to focus and concentrate and that your memory has become incredibly short term. What you might also notice with both an increased Vata dosha and a blocked Vata dosha is cold hands and feet. Looking after mental health is a big task, but there are many tools out there to help us. I would recommend the first thing to think about when regarding your mental health is to start beginning a practice of introspection and reflection. You can do this through journaling or just generally taking some me time for yourself. Keeping good friends around you is another really valuable tool to keep in mind when you're looking after your mental health. So keeping nourishing friendships that support your growth and not hinder it will lead you onto a path of nurturing your mind. A good yoga practice with pranayama and meditation are key tools for balancing the mind. So you can look to a good practitioner or a teacher to go on that journey, or take up a course to learn more. Pranayama is especially essential for mental health because where the mind flows, prana follows. So the mind and the prana flow together. When we balance our prana through pranayama practices, we notice a distinct calmness in our mental fluctuations too. Having some self-care and self-love time is extremely important for mental health. This doesn't just mean pampering your external body, this also means learning to love yourself from the inside. So listening out for that voice that can tell you things that you probably don't want to hear or can sometimes hinder you in what you're doing, and learning to take care of that and love it anyway is a big step for balancing out mental health issues. And then we've got these big chunks of life that really make a difference in keeping our mental health balance. So things like relationships, career, where you're deciding to live, how you spend your time, your hobbies, your interests. There's these big areas of life that we need to make sure we're doing them according to what feels right for us. When we are going against that inner wisdom, against that intuition, it can cause a lot of internal imbalances within our body and our mind. You want to make sure that you do have a good balance between the left and the right sides of our brain activity. So we want a good amount of study as well as a good amount of creativity and play. Keeping a healthy daily routine is also extremely beneficial for your mental health. So waking up early and having a proper sleep in the evening will be really good for your mental balance. And lastly, Ayurveda can help to keep our mind healthy by supplementing it with valuable herbs and remedies. Brainkey Gold Malt by Amrutam is one of them. So why use Brainkey Gold Malt? Well, firstly, it's got some really powerful herbs in there that help to balance the mind. Shankh, pushpi, brahmi, and jatamumsi are three key ingredients in this malt that allow the brain to be rejuvenated. It allows the memory to improve, the intelligence to be enhanced, allowing us to have more focus and concentration on what we're doing. Another really good ingredient in this is ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is another rasayana herb, which means that it rejuvenates the system and mainly the nervous system. So ashwagandha is especially good for unblocking channels within the body and also providing nourishment to the Vata Dosha. I always find that when I take ashwagandha, I get into a good flow with my work and I've got more lift to what I'm doing. Malts by Amrutam are mainly working for rasayana. In Ayurveda, this is basically rejuvenation, so it's rebuilding that body. And I think this is key with the mind because we do live in a society where we overwork our mind and it's on this constant overdrive. So by rejuvenating the mind because it's too tired, this is a really good way to start going on that journey. One thing I want to mention when taking the malt is to make sure that the body is clear of armour. You can do this by having a quick check on your tongue to see if there's a coating and making sure you're not feeling too lethargic and tired that day and having too many aches and pains. If you're suffering with high levels of armour, do visit a practitioner or an Ayurvedic doctor to remedy this. Secondly, look after your digestion when you're taking this malt. So make sure that you're eating timely meals 3 times a day and avoiding snacking in between meals. Stick to foods that are light, soft and easy to digest, that are gently spiced. You can take this malt once or twice a day, so on an empty stomach in the morning with a full glass of warm water or warm milk. Overall, the Brainkey Gold Malt is really good for improving focus, concentration and memory. I recommend this for those that are perhaps studying and they need that extra oomph because they're using their mind a lot. Anybody that's going through stressful periods of work perhaps where they really need that mental stamina to keep going. or generally if they've overworked themselves and they're looking to rejuvenate their whole body and mind, this is a really good supplement to start taking. So I have personally taken this malt and I found it really beneficial to me, especially because I have the Vata Dosha inherently within my constitution. So if you need to know what dosha is more prominent within your constitution, you can check out the dosha quiz on the Amrutam website. I hope that you might enjoy taking your Brainkey Gold Malt. If you have any questions, feel free to write into us and we'd be happy to answer.